Hey guys, I'm Coach Karina. I've been seeing a lot of things about Marinette Dupain-Cheng being a gymnast, so I decided to look into it a little bit more. I will only be looking at Marinette in this analysis. I will be leaving out all other secondary characters and even primary characters, as they would need an analysis all of their own to determine their gymnastics ability and whether or not they would make a good gymnast, such as Marinette for this particular one. If there are other characters you would like to see an analysis in, let me know. I will also be leaving out Ladybug. Ladybug does different skills and would need an analysis all her own.
The Miraculous enhances all physical abilities.
Also, that right there. When Marinette is Ladybug, her abilities are all enhanced, so I don't think it would be fair to determine her gymnastics ability based on her alter ego. So there are different types of gymnasts. There are artistic, rhythmic, TNT, acrobatic. Each do their gymnastics a little bit differently. I am going to be focusing on the artistic aspect in this analysis. Artistic gymnasts are the ones that do the floor, vault, bars, and beam. We obviously don't really see Marinette being on beams or bars or vault or even floor in general. So I'll be looking at, in general, her gymnastics ability for these. So to be a good gymnast, I've determined that you need the skills, the flexibility, and dance skills as well, and the strength. So I'm going to be looking at each of these for Marinette to determine her gymnastics potential. So I know that a walk wasn't necessarily one that I had in that previous list, but walks are pretty important, and gymnasts walk in a certain way.
We couldn't be more invisible. Okay, let's start over.
All right, so we saw her walk. We can kind of see her posture here. She has huge strides, shoulders back, elbows back. Not a very good gymnast walk, but then she was trying to be kind of awkward in this situation, so I'm not necessarily sure that this particular walk should count. We also see her walking here. She's walking more on her toes, but she's leaning forward. Again, not how gymnasts should walk. They should be walking with those shoulders back, toe heel, straight legs, pointed toes. All right, enough with those walks. We're going to go ahead and look at some of the skills that we see Marinette do. Right here, we see her do a front flip. She lands on her shoulders and her neck. I mean, I know she is on a couch, so thankfully she wasn't hurt. But obviously, as far as skills go, that would not fly in a competition. So next we see her do a dive roll. Dive rolls are a skill. They are not necessarily in compulsory routines, and they do not count as a flight skill, but they are a skill typically learned about level 3, level 4. So here we see Marinette doing a couple skills. She does a triple turn there, as she's trying to mimic Clara Nightingale here. Handstand that she falls on her back with. So as far as the turn goes, excellent. I'm looking at more that handstand that she fell out of. Probably not a skill you'd want to be competing. So right here, I am super impressed with that skill Marinette did to hop out of that bench. I'm going to show it again in slow motion. So here you can see she's hopping out, arching up all the way to get to her feet. So she's basically doing a type of head spring from a sitting position to stand up, and I think that is a great skill. So here we see a little bit of her form as she's hopping off of that bench. I'm no idea how she got in that position, but hopping off of her elbows. She would get deducted if she were to do a competition with that left bent knee there, but those are form issues that can be worked on. And again, this is just a good view of that nice arch. She's in a good body position, kind of like you would coming out of a front aerial, except for she's coming to 2 feet instead of the 1 foot. So here we can kind of see an interesting handstand position. I'm not quite sure which skill she was trying to do, but either way, I'm not sure this is a good position to be in, whether she's kicking into a handstand, a front handspring, not effective. So here we can also see her balancing on her hands. Her arms are bent, her legs are bent, toes are flexed. It's not really good form, so again, this is not a skill I would recommend she do. Now this skill right here is super impressive how she hops out of that chair. I'm going to show that again in slow motion. She hops out of her chair, hitting that arch position before coming to her feet. And I just think that is some incredible power she showed hopping out of that chair. Here you can see that body shaping from when she was in the air hopping out of that chair. And again, that is a pretty good body position, almost the exact same body position you would be in were you to do a back handspring, a back whip, a front handspring, or a skill such as that. This skill right here, so amazing. I'm going to show that skill a few more times because just wow. She falls on her belly and then handsprings up to her feet like it was nothing. I mean, I've been able to do like head springs and handsprings for years, but never a belly spring. Pretty sure that's not in the code of points anywhere. But it does have elements from other skills in the code of points, the handspring and head spring that I mentioned. And that would take a lot of power to do that from your belly. So overall, I'm going to say this is a good skill. She does land with those legs wider than hip width apart, which would give her a deduction in competition. But again, that's something you could work on. So this was pretty much the only scene I could find with some type of beam element. As Marinette is going on this thin bind, she does a dive roll and runs on it. So running on a skinnier surface, I think it is safe to say that she would be okay on a balance beam, as we can see her doing skills and being relatively comfortable on that thin surface. So here we just see her flop to her belly, but it's mostly the body position here that I was looking. You can see it here. She's in a tight arch position, kind of like a boat position. So I think it goes to show she does have that back strength to keep her back up that height, and I think it's good skill. So those were pretty much the only skills I saw Marinette potentially do that could be considered gymnastic skills. So I'm going to go ahead and move into her flexibility and dance skills that we've seen. So this scene here from Optigami, we see her doing straddles over the elevator doors. And I'm not too impressed with her straddle flexibility there, but holding it on top of the elevator makes it that much more impressive. So I mentioned this one briefly in the skills, but we can see her form better here when she was doing that triple turn. And a triple turn is a D skill, so that is a good skill to be having. So typically not done until you're an optional level. Her dancing isn't nearly as good as Clara Nightingale's here. But again, we're going to be focusing on Marinette in this video. So this picture was actually from her Instagram a year or so ago. But again, good flexibility, being able to touch her toes. That'll definitely help her with her gymnastics. Talked about this a little bit too, but we can see a little bit of her bridge here. So good back flexibility. We see her sitting in a butterfly position here. And you can see that she has relatively good the hip flexor flexibility here. Just showing that a little bit closer again. Those feet are almost all the way in and her knees are relatively down, so good butterfly position. The same scene with her front handspring or elbow springing, I don't know, off of the bench. We also see her falling back and she's lifting her leg up super high. Not quite a full split, but it looks to be about 150 degrees if I have to guess. And 150 degrees is the degree you would need your split to be in when you're in level 5. So relatively good. We can see a little bit of her dance abilities here and also just her core strength, being able to hold those positions. Again, holding that leg in an arabesque though, you'd probably want to straighten that leg, but again, form issues, those can be fixed. Unless she's doing a ring where you want your head to be touching your foot, then she would need to get up a little bit more and lean that head back more. So right here we see one of her best flexibility moves. I'm going to be showing it again in slow motion so you can see that better. She is falling and goes to catch herself in a bridge position with one leg up and then comes back up to a standing position. That is incredible, just let me say. So here is pausing the video at the very bottom part of that fall in that bridge. You can see her hands never actually touch the ground. So she went into that bridge position and didn't even push herself back up to standing with her hands. She just used her core strength. So we can see her back flexibility here, good leg flexibility. You can tell even Alia and Adrian are impressed with this. So here we see Marinette doing more turns. So again, helping us prove her dance abilities for her gymnastics potential. Here we see Marinette doing more turns. We see her go around 2.5, almost 3 times. So very similar to what we saw in that other turning video. So again, good with the turns, not so good on the form though in this turn. So here again, just briefly seeing her running on that thin vine. So running on a thin surface for that balance beam skills. So here we can see how quickly Marinette can learn choreography, which is valuable as you're teaching gymnasts their routines. She learns relatively quickly and is able to catch on pretty quickly what all the other dancers are doing. We do see here, though, that when she's not prepared for those turns, she can still fall out of those turns. So she will just want to make sure that she has the proper form as she's getting ready for those turns. Really all I had on Marinette's flexibility and dance ability that I could find. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to conditioning, such as focusing on her strength, her power, endurance, to do those routines, all of that stuff. So first of all, Marinette literally runs everywhere. And she has relatively good form. You can see this position here. She's got her elbows bent at that about 90, 100 degree angle, which is good. Her feet are leaving the ground in that good stride position. So good form in her runs. That will help her with her vaulting ability and to get extra power into those tumbling passes. You can also see she was able to change her direction relatively quickly. That's not necessarily an important skill in gymnastics, but I am impressed with, again, that high leg kick in order to turn in the other direction. And this might have been better in the dance section, but you can kind of see her leaping here after that high kick to continue her run. Again, here is that running position, those good bent elbows at the proper degrees, nice stride. So again, good running form there. I do believe that she has some strong leg muscles. In this entire scene, she is duck walking, squatting down low for who knows how long it took her to walk to school and walk to her locker. But that is a long way to be staying in that squatted position, working out those leg muscles. Here we see a little bit of her arm strength as she tries to pull open that elevator door. Obviously, it doesn't work, but you can still see that she does have that arm strength as she is doing that static exercise. So we also see some of her strength here, both leg and arm. Her leg strength here, she is jumping up and you can see the bottom of her foot gets to that first line on the wall, which when she was standing up was to her waist. So I would estimate that's about 3 feet, which is a really good vertical jump height. And then with her arm strength as she attempts to climb the wall here, she makes it up to the 5th line. So she makes it up pretty far before she falls, and there are no handholds in that wall. So I would say that she has some good arm strength or at least some good parkour skills. And the height she gets in that jump right there. Oh my goodness. I need to play that again. She is jumping taller than Kagami. Kagami is probably at least 5 feet tall. So Marinette is able to jump herself up higher than 5 feet. That is really impressive and definitely going to help her tumbling abilities. So here Marinette's just walking around with Manon on her leg. So walking around with a 3-year-old on your leg, I'm not sure how many of you have done that before, but 3-year-olds can weigh quite a bit, so that is some good leg strength that Marinette is showing there. So this shows some good strength and endurance here. We see her running up, I counted at least 4 flights of stairs, and Marinette doesn't even seem to be tired at the end of it. And some more running with Marinette and a little bit of parkour skills, a side vault over the fence. And then she continues her run, again, vaulting over the fence one more time. So here is some more arm strength. She's practically rock climbing up that vine there. So again, showing that good arm strength that is necessary in gymnastics, especially on events such as bars. Arm strength plays a huge role in if you can do skills. Here we just see her doing some lunges. So again, working out those leg muscles. Here we see Marinette doing a depth jump from a very tall height. I'm going to show that again. She is dropping to her feet. And if we look at from where she started to where she's standing at the end, it appears that that depth jump was 3 times her height. So that is a good skill to have, a depth jump. From that kind of height, I'm really impressed, and she must have some incredibly strong bones and muscles to catch herself. You can also see she's stuck the landing there. So that's really going to help her as she comes out of her vaults, out of her dismounts on bars, out of her tumbling passes, dismounts on beam. She's going to be able to stick those and not get deducted. So here we see her hopping from one table to the other table before hopping on down. So I'm going to show that one more time because that was pretty fast. So she is able to have relatively good balance as she's hopping from one foot to the other foot, and again doing a partial side leap there. I'm not sure if that classifies more as gymnastics or as parkour, but either way, I do think that will help her in her gymnastics abilities. So then the question, would Marinette Dupain-Cheng really make a good gymnast? My opinion is that yes, she has the potential to be a good gymnast. I don't think she would be right now, but part of that is because I have not seen her actually in a gym doing these skills. I do see potential that she can train for, but that's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next one.